based on this information that that was something non-human, right? But then you also have Varginha, you have Kecksburg. The list goes on and on and on. But that's what's happening right now. Literally today, this morning, this dropped. And they're saying that there's not only just, bits and pieces of things, but they also have fully intact craft. And I don't know if anybody else caught this, but Christopher Mellon made a really interesting statement in this article that, like, the wording that he used here was really like, it almost gave me like goosebumps because I'm like, wait a second, that's like very, very, very specific. He said, a number of well placed current and former officials have shared detailed information with me, Chris Mellon, regarding this alleged program, including insights into the history, governing documents, and the location where a craft was allegedly abandoned and recovered. Abandoned and recovered. Like, abandoned by who and recovered by who? So, I
Talk,
mean,
Virginia.
a
Talk,
lot,
Virginia.
there's a lot going on here, man. Like, my head is spinning. Like, I got to put a video out about this.
So
You know
in
what I mean? Like, there's so much
The
happening.
Brazil crash that James Fox and all that type of stuff, what I'm hearing is that's the one that was abandoned, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
that's let's take that with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's not true because I guarantee you James Fox knows what he's talking about. Matter of fact, we
Sure.
found his retrieval unit and it is in South Carolina. So
Right. It was a C-19. Am I saying that right?
C-17, it was a
C-17.
SOP. Basically, what it is in Joint Base Charleston, in South Carolina, they have a C-17 Special Forces extraction unit that specializes in clandestine extractions. I
Right.
was looking for it for an upgraded version of MK or MJ-12, right? So I was looking for that reason, and James Fox was looking at it because he had a C-17 with a tail number that was from that base that was seen taking a photo of that hauled the body off. Not only that, they have a specialized unit. You can go on my UFO Twitter feed and figure it out, but they have a unit designed to haul contaminated corpses. No shit, right? So
Oh my God.
postulate some of that stuff. If you go back and look, you can see they have some a special forces program there, and we all know you can read. Let's see, was it Omega? He talks about the bait,
Hmm.
track, and
Yeah, the
takedown
baiting
programs,
with
right? So there you
the
go.
P3 radar bird,
There you go.
the heavies, like the
Yeah, we've known
anomalous
for a
health
minute.
injuries. It's bait, track, takedown, snatch program. Like, this potential treaty with Eisenhower. It's so funny because, like, I don't have a line in the sand, right? Everything's on the table until it's off the table. The treaty with Eisenhower, I was always like, ah, man, I don't know about that one. Now I'm like, oh man,
Yeah, I
maybe.
wouldn't second guess it. I'm not positive. Like I said, most of this stuff I want to vet and find out information, but I've heard this from people, and I'm saying everything's on the table at this moment, right? That's all I'm asking. What I'm not saying is this: you don't believe everything somebody says. You just don't close shit out until you vet it yourself. Don't let somebody tell you what does and doesn't exist. I spent what 2 years pretending UFOs didn't exist because everyone around me would tell me I was fucking crazy. So again, uh, it's all right in front of us. Let me say one more thing before I go back to my resort. What if the reason for the assassinations, the suiciding, and all these other things is because it's not just a crash retrieval program? What if, because of the crash retrieval program, we've expanded our knowledge, consciousness of time travel, of psi abilities, because all of this is intertwined? Now, wouldn't it make more sense if some of these darker aspects, right, like MK Ultra, again, programs do not stop; they rename.
Rename,
So
yup.
exactly, MK Ultra. Now, what if also we know AHI, which is anomalous health injuries? That's what we say Havana syndrome people receive from said craft, right? What if that was being reverse engineered as well? Because they realized that would be a good weapon in war. And perhaps some of the big events that we know of were tests of those weapons on our own people. And if you say we don't, we put a National Guard unit 100 yards away from a fucking atomic bomb to see what it does.
Bingo. Bingo. And there's been so many crash retrievals. Like, I mean, God knows how many. Like, all right, so like we could have, all right, Cape Girardeau, 41. That's way before Roswell. Del Rio, oh man, there's just so much here. Like, and you're talking about technology being used on citizens. There seems to be some decent information that Skinwalker Ranch is one of those places where there really is a phenomenon there. There really are anomalous activities occurring, high strangeness, real UFOs and everything. And under the cover of actual paranormal activity, there's clandestine operations going on there to test bizarre weaponry. And they're using the phenomenon to cloak their activities because you can't tell the difference between the two. I know that may sound really crazy, but I heard it from a pretty damn credible individual that that may actually be something that's going on. So, I mean, I'm looking into that one. I'm looking into a lot of things at this point. My God, my head's all over the place. There's just so much going on. This unit in South Carolina, the Eisenhower Treaty, the military baiting the ships, Kecksburg, Cash Landrum. I mean, it's just it goes on and on and on. I found too. There's a gentleman. I'm trying to remember his name because I actually got my hands on some of the PDFs. There's a gentleman. Oh God, I know Shane. I think you know the name. He wrote about crash retrievals like pretty
Leonard
extensively.
Stringfield,
Yes,
UFO Crash
Stringfield.
Retrievals,
Thank
Volume
you.
1 through 7. Let me tell you one thing though. I'm a big nerd, and here's how I'm gonna explain that. So we actually just interviewed Michael Schratt here for the RDR News,
Love
and
Michael Pratt.
as we're talking, and we're talking about crash retrievals, and I'm just so excited. And he reaches into an envelope, right? And I'm like, if he pulls out my Bible, I'm gonna shit my pants right now. And let me tell you, when he pulled that out, I screamed. I was like, "Oh, that's my favorite book!" And everybody turned and looked at me. I was like, "Oh shit!" Right? And in the middle of this conversation, he's talking about stuff, and he's like, there was a woman whose her job was to catalog said, and me being the super nerd trying to impress was like Mrs. G, and he turns and goes, "Holy hell, brother, you know your shit." And I was like, "Oh yeah, super nerd approved, bro." Crash Retreat. Actually, check my thread, guys. I post a lot about it. You got that, and you also got Ryan Wood's got a really great book called Magic. Was it Magic Eyes? I think it is. So I post about him in there, and everything you want to know is in there. It's just a matter of weeding out the real from the raw, right?
I am looking that up right now. Did you get the crash retrieval books off of Amazon? Like there's like a 90 something dollar like package where it's like all of them.
Yeah. It's $100. It's $100 for volume 1 through 7. I can promise you, the Juan can vouch, and anybody that's I've kind of tipped off to the fact of it, anything you've heard about this subject is probably in that book somewhere, crash retrieval wise. And the
Mhm.
thing about Leonard Stringfield, most people don't know, is he was an experiencer back in the war, right? I think it was was it Korea or World War II? One of those two, Foo Fighter. And it caused him to go seriously into this. And he actually, these books isn't necessarily a book. Look at them as research papers. He started at the beginning at the MUFON Research Symposium. I think it was in Dayton, right there where it's at. And at the time, he developed and had a lot of sources because guess what he did in the military? I think he was OSI at the time. Guess what they did? That's what Doty was for a minute, right? So my point is, this guy had the sources, the people. They just didn't want to be known, and he took a lot of their names to the grave. But the stories are real. So now it's a time to go in and start weeding out what in there is still around. Because not all, remember this, guys, not all people who are read into the program are dead. Not all of them. I can tell you, Toby and I know this as well as John.
This is crazy. I was able to find UFO crash retrievals status report 1 retrievals of the third kind,
Yeah, that's
and
volume
then
one. And there's 6 more. And I can tell you guys, look, I think it's a banger of a read, but I can promise you it's probably a little squishy for some people. But Thomas, you had a lot of people with their hands up, and I've been interrupting like a son of a gun. Look, I'm not the
yeah, let's
belle
get
of
to
the ball
everybody at
here.
this point. Well, I'm sure I'm not just the only one who thinks this. There rarely do you speak, and it's not interesting. Like it's always something that
My
like,
mom told me I was special, brother.
dude, I might have to agree. Might just have to agree. Hey.